This is Levi Meyer representing Compass, Florida, and you're listening to the Real Talk Podcast.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Real Talk. Today, Levi Meyer from Compass, Florida, representing the great state of Florida. He's got a wealth of knowledge, great stories, and it's always nice to have a friend come on the podcast, just as a refresher. So, listen, you are not the only person that has been on my podcast twice, but it's about time.
And I'm pretty sure it won't be the last time.
Probably won't be. It probably won't be.
We're gonna go for 3 at least.
Oh yeah, man. Well, listen. Today's what? 30th. I think the Halloween Eve, or the Halloween Eve. Today's the what? 29th. 29th. Halloween Eve, and you certainly brought the weather, the raining weather with you.
Yeah, it's kind of nasty out, to be honest with you.
It's definitely one of the worst 2 days, rain-wise, weather-wise.
Being from Miami, I'm not a stranger
to rain.
I'm not a stranger to rain, but like being wet and cold is just not. It's not a favorite for me.
One thing that people that don't go to Miami often may not know is it's normal to have a crazy thunderstorm for 2 hours every day, from like 3 to 5,
or 5 minutes every 2 hours. It's really, that's the way it works.
Yeah, but Floridians aren't really fazed by rain. I guess they're fazed more by the cold, and today you have a combination of the both. So what's going on? What brings you back to New York City? What are you doing?
Just networking.
There you go.
Honestly, coming back to see a few friends, friend with a birthday party, and we're gonna try to keep it to a relative smaller crowd and maintain social distancing and all, but the reality is, we're here mostly to network and see some friends. There's a ton of traffic from New York to Miami, and I would say, like, at this point, close to 80% of my active business is coming out of New York, and so it's just makes sense to come out here and see some people.
Totally. So, as far as what you said in New York, the New Yorkers are basically just buying up properties in Miami or properties in Florida, whether it's from West Palm or Palm Beach all the way down to Fort Lauderdale to Miami, to where you are in Coral Gables and Coconut Grove. What are you seeing? Is it just people fleeing? Are they renting? And are they buying? Are they fleeing? And are they just investing in property? Like, what's the trend here?
I think it's a little bit of both and all of the above. I'm a big fan of New York, and there's a lot of people that are on this mission of New York will come back, and I guess the market is struggling here to some degree, but I think that I don't think New York needs to come back. I think it's still here, and this is New York. It has its ways. It comes and it goes, but there are certainly a lot of people that are choosing to leave the city, whether it just be for a temporary basis for 3 months or a year until coronavirus sorts itself out, or whether they're just saying enough's enough and they're tired of the taxes and they're looking for that, to avoid the SALT taxes and enjoy Florida's no income tax laws. There's a lot of people that are moving into Florida for sunshine, for backyards, to get away from high density locations,
outdoor space.
So they're looking for outdoor spaces, pools, sunshine, beaches. The same things people have always looked for in Florida.
Sure.
I just think that the moment, maybe the climate in the city is sort of perpetuating a little bit of motivation for people to get out and just go find a space down there.
Right. So, that totally understand. I mean, I guess what's happening right now is the accidental benefactors of COVID-19 is your market. The Hamptons, Aspen, Vail,
Correct. Right now, Miami, or I should say South Florida, because really Palm Beach, Boca, Fort Lauderdale, everything's really popping. Even Naples and
what about
Naples,
Tampa Bay, like in the Bay side?
Yeah, West Coast, Orlando, Tampa. You look at Naples and all the surrounding areas like Bonita Springs. We're seeing a huge wave of people coming, not just out of New York, but also DC, Boston, and in some cases in Miami, even out of San Francisco and California.
Is that right?
Yeah, out of LA.
You would think buyers from the West Coast, they have almost the same things out there.
They do. There's a lot of politics involved in it as well. I think we're in a very heavy political climate right now, and there are people that are not particularly fond of the politics, the city politics of New York City. There are people that are not particularly fond of the politics in Los Angeles and California in general. Florida tends to be a pretty right Republican, Republican state, and so there are, I'd say, yeah, there's a lot of people fleeing for Trump land. Although I'm not sure that Florida is going to necessarily go red or blue. I'm not speaking to that, but I will say that we have a Republican governor, and there are people that I think find sort of the Republican side of Florida a little bit more favorable, whether it be taxes or otherwise. So we are seeing people of all sorts coming to Florida. Just to give you a couple of quick examples, for the most part, I'm not seeing a ton of people fleeing or flocking to Florida looking for condos. Most people are looking for single-family homes. They're looking for backyard space. They're looking for waterfront properties. They want a pool. They want an extra bedroom. So in addition to just seeing people within our own market fleeing to single-family and townhouse market out of the condos, we're seeing people come out of the Hamptons, the city. I have 2 clients out of D.C., a client out of Boston that just purchased a house, a condo, on the beach in Hollywood, in Trump Hollywood for that matter. But it's pretty red hot, fire hot market, and I'd love to speak a little bit more about that. I can give you
we'll talk about that.
What's going on
there. Let's pivot back before we talk so much business. Let's talk about life. Huh? Let's talk about the personal part first. We can't give the listeners the dessert in the first 5 minutes of the pod. I'm
with you.
Yeah. But so let's talk about, you took a trip recently, a trip that is technically not a restricted state, at least in the state of New York, which is the great state of Colorado, one of my favorite states, and one of our good friends recently got married. Let's talk about that. You were in the city of Aspen, where the beer flows like wine, and the women flock like the salmon of Capistrano.
Is that an official statement?
That's the famous quote from a movie Dumb and Dumber.
There you go.
Yeah. Did you?
The wise words.
So you were there. Were the girls flocking like the salmon of Capistrano?
My wife was flocking like the salmon of Capistrano. I don't know. I didn't notice any of the other girls.
I love it. And was the beer flowing like wine?
Yes, but the beer was flowing like wine, and tequila was flowing like beer, and so on and so forth. And so, we had a really great time. Actually, our good friend Jonathan Rosen and Jordan Dickey, who is now Miss Jordan Rosen as well. They got engaged somewhere in the beginning of the stay-at-home order, and they had told us that they're planning to do a wedding in Aspen. The moment they had dates, I asked if they were confirmed, and we went online and booked extraordinarily cheap round-trip tickets to Aspen, because at the time, nobody was planning to fly. So they were almost paying us to fly to Aspen.
Let me stop you there, by the way. For those of you that are New York City listeners, there are currently no direct flights to Aspen, Colorado. You have to transfer in Dallas. I have to transfer in either DFW, Chicago, or Denver.
Yeah, Chicago, Denver, or DFW.
But Miami is actually one of the great airports that has a direct flight to Aspen.
With that said, we flew through DFW. We originally booked through Chicago. We booked through Chicago. They transferred it to DFW. They changed our flights. It was changed about 4 or 5 times between when I booked it, which I think was around April, and when we went, which was early October, first week of October.
October, yeah.
So, but we just in the early days of shelter in place, business was certainly slow. There was a lot of uncertainty in the market. We thought it was doomsday. We were bracing for impact. Saving the deals we had was really what we were doing, and with that said, I shifted a lot of my focus to my kids, my wife, my family. We just said, you know what? If we're not going to be busy, I'm not going to spend 10 hours a day chasing my tail to just come home and say, there's nothing going on in the market.
Yeah.
I'm going to just wait it out and take this as an opportunity to spend some time with my family. So we actually took a few nice trips. We went to Naples. We drove up to Georgia and spent a week in the mountains over there outside of Blue Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
We did a trip in North Carolina in
Outer Banks?
No, what's my brain froze. I'll get back to it in a second. But we did a really nice trip in
Ashburn.
No, it's like the mini Aspen of North Carolina.
Biltmore
It's like west of Asheville.
Asheville, that's what I meant.
My brain is just frozen. I'll get back to it in a second.
Okay.
But we did a really nice trip to the mountains in North Carolina. So we had a lot of those nice family trips. We spent a lot of time with the kids. But one thing I was particularly looking forward to was taking my wife without the kids and going to Aspen for Jonathan and Jordan's wedding. which was originally planned to be 200 people, and due to Corona, they had to cut it back to 50.
50, yeah.
Which was I'm sure tough on them.
Tough
and
cut.
I'm happy to have made the cut.
You did.
But yeah, we flew out to Aspen. Of course, our buddy Lane, greeted us with open arms.
Oh, Laner.
Lane came and picked up Lauren and I from the airport, drove us out to the 2 Mile Ranch.
Laner was your private guide / driver /
Yeah, and he's got cool stuff coming down the
concierge.
pipe. I mean, it's pretty soon he'll be able to fly you right into Aspen. So
That's right.
He's
He's
working
getting
on
his
that pilot license.
That's right. He is getting his license.
But we got a chance to go out and spend some time at the 2 Mile Ranch and enjoy a very small, intimate, mostly outdoor wedding with the Rosens, and it was a ball.
How beautiful is that property, the 2 Mile Ranch?
Holy shit! I can say shit here, right?
Yeah, of course you can. Whatever you want,
Holy
man.
shit! What a property! We stayed in a house on that ranch that was about 1.5 miles from the main house on the same property.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
separated by a mountain.
That's right.
You have to.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's separated by wild elk, forest, and mountains.
No, they were telling us, like, make sure you close the doors at night because
Bears.
there are bears, and we kind of laughed, and they're like, no, like a bear just tore up one of the jacuzzis over there.
Did you see the jacuzzi top that was torn up?
So we saw it, and I
Yeah.
guess look, that's just Colorado life, right? If you're going to be living in Colorado,
Yeah,
there's a
Bear wanted
elk
to-
and bear are part of
Bear
the
wanted
deal.
to go for a dip, and he decided to tear up the lid on the jacuzzi.
People ask me, it's like, they go, if I get a place in Florida, like, do I have to be worried about gators, like alligators, and like coming in my pool and eating my kids? I was like, honestly, I've never worried about alligators coming into the pool and eating my kids, but I suppose I can't say that it hasn't been reported for people to have found an alligator in their pool. Usually a little bit more west or outside of like the Everglades, near canals, not really like in Miami Beach or Coconut Grove. Although you go to the parks in Coconut Grove, which is like a seaside town, and most of the water frontage in Coconut Grove is designated for park space.
Right.
And they have all the mangroves that separate the park from the water.
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
will see signs that say like danger alligators.
No swimming.
Do not feed alligators.
Yeah.
I've never seen one. I've been living in Coconut Grove for 5 years now, but supposedly they do exist.
I think you hear those crazy news stories every now and then of like dogs like getting picked up by alligators and they never found again, or they get attacked, or
So I guess the equivalent is elk and bear in Colorado, but yeah, we got to the house and we saw that they had clawed up the top of that,
the
the top
cover.
of the outdoor jacuzzi.
Yeah, I saw it.
Outside of that, I did not see a bear. I didn't see an elk. All I saw was we arrived for the changing of the leaves in probably what couldn't have been a more perfect time.
Most beautiful time.
Absolutely stunning. I
mean,
mean the yellows, the ambers, the reds. It was gorgeous.
If you ranked the Compass offices in the nation and ranked which cities or towns are the most photogenic,
Aspen.
you probably have to say Aspen is probably up there.
It's if not top 2, top 3.
I mean,
for sure.
Miami is photogenic.
I mean,
right?
aloha Hawaii. But, like we have some competition now, but Miami's up there on that list
for sure.
Aspen is for sure up there on that list, and now we have Hawaii.
I mean, DC, New York, I would say is up there, but
New York is photogenic in its own way. It's different, but it's not.
different.
It's not in the same.
No way.
Not in that natural environment
No
sort of
way.
More in an architectural.
Exactly.
More in an architectural way, but it's and for me, San Francisco and LA maybe are something of a blend of those two. Like in San Francisco, you have some really great architecture and you're kind of cool. It's on the bay, but it's I wouldn't rank it per se in I think Miami, Aspen, and now Hawaii are pretty much at the top of that
Hawaii
list.
and Aspen has to be up there. Yeah.
The Hamptons.
When
I mean,
you
you can't. The
cities,
Hamptons.
though.
That's a photogenic.
Hamptons. I would say Hamptons is photogenic, but when you compare it to Miami, there's not enough culture, color, architectural styles. It's more. I like Miami being more eccentric and diverse, from an architectural, people, culture, and environment. An environment standpoint, rather than the Hamptons. It's great, but what do you have? The Surf Lodge, and you have the down.
I have to disagree. I think Hampton's got to be up there in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah, well, you live in Miami,
and I did go to the Hamptons. I was in the Hamptons the first week of August. I flew up.
It's beautiful up there, yeah.
And it was stunning. It was great.
Yeah.
I found this great little cottage in Sagaponack. Had a great backyard with a wooden deck and a barbecue.
Nice.
And the front yard had the sunset like over a meadow that was in front of this house. There was nothing And we'll probably end up developing something on that lot, but it was vacant, so we just watched the sunsets.
Let's just say that all these cities that we're in, there's definitely some close ties between first, second, and third.
Yes, absolutely. But Aspen, changing of the leaves, stunning. I mean, if you haven't seen it, I recommend getting your way out there. Supposedly, it's relatively hard to pinpoint because it's like a 20-day period.
Sure,
It kind of moves it with every season.
And there's up valley, down valley, you know, and then the down valley is actually a lot sooner, or a lot slower than than the main town of Aspen. The altitude is higher; it gets colder, right? So the leaves change earlier there than down valley, which is like Carbondale and Basalt down that area. Yeah. It kind of follows. It's a flow. But yeah, how was the wedding itself?
You certainly know your Colorado.
That barn looked really interesting.
The wedding itself was I mean, exceeded my expectations in every possible way. Mm-hmm. It was really a very intimate gathering of people. I would say that really, people that were really good friends, that really have deep love for one another. Not just the bride and the groom, but all the guests in attendance.
Yeah, I'm sure. And Chef Bobby, huh?
And Chef Bobby did a
knockout. Shout out, Chef Bobby.
Chef Bobby Paulette did a phenomenal job with the food. I mean, I could still taste the lamb. It was not. I mean, my wife's a chef, and she was saying the same. Like, this is just, the food's really phenomenal. Everything was really great.
When we're done with this recording, we gotta send Chef Bobby a little selfie of us. And also maybe Lane Johnson as well. Actually, shout out Lane Johnson. That's our boy right there.
What a guy.
Lane is the man. So we should do a little selfie and send him a little.
But
message.
Yeah, nobody disappointed. I mean, from the venue, the property, the food. I mean, the Rosens even busted out all kinds of swag. We got hats and cups and gear. We had, it was.
Was there a hashtag for the wedding?
They did have a hashtag. I think it was. I'd have to pull it back up, but it was.
We can talk about it later.
It was double JR wedding, double JR ranch wedding, something like that.
Okay.
I'll have to pull it back up. But
nice.
They did have a hashtag for those that were following. I mean, it was stunning. I mean, it was really, they got married in the sunset, in a huge field, lakeside, across from the barn, next to the main house on this 2-mile, $25 million ranch. Just absolutely beautiful, all mostly outdoors. The wedding itself, the reception itself was in the was in a very large barn that they had just tricked out to be this really beautiful, just a really beautiful wedding venue that had a white cloth draping.
Sorry,
who was that one for?
That one was for you.
Yeah, no, it was stunning. Just a great band. Again, it was unfortunate they had to keep it to 50 instead of 200, and I don't know how much they even want me to be talking about their wedding, so I'm gonna shift off. But it was very nice. It was intimate. It was socially distant to the best that it could be in having a wedding in coronavirus times. We couldn't have hit Aspen in a more amazing time.
And really you hate the snow, so why not go in the fall?
I hate the snow. Snow is right up there on my list of things, like right next to traffic. I just can't stand it. So I actually enjoyed my first trip to Aspen was in the summer. This one was in the changing of the leaves. Maybe at some point I'll get up there and go see it in the snow.
Yeah, you have to. It's beautiful up there. So for those of you that don't know the 2-Mile Ranch, if you listen to one of the original episodes from 2020, Lane Johnson was my guest. He's a listing broker for that property. 2-Mile Ranch is essentially 7 distinct homes, total of 22 bedrooms, on a plot of 244 acres. And it also has an addition to the home that you stayed next to. There's another plot of land that you could build. There's a total of 3 also developable plots of land where you could actually build 3 more homes on the land, which has a creek that is called Woody Creek that runs directly through the middle of the property, and it's currently offered on the market at $24.9 million. I think Lane had an offer to rent it for like some crazy amount, like $70,000.
I think he has several buyers that are interested in the moment. So I know that while we were there, the morning after the wedding, he was touring a very interested buyer through there. So
good.
I have a lot of confidence in Lane that he's going to sell that property. The location is pretty stellar. It's just tucked away out of the main town of Aspen. But really, I mean, you come down the mountain essentially from the ranch. less than 10 minutes to wiggle. I mean, it takes 10 minutes to drive from one point to the other on this ranch,
Yep.
right? Because it's so large. But once you get kind of out from the main house, you wiggle. It's less than 10 minutes down to Woody Creek Tavern,
Yeah.
which is a very famous spot in Aspen. Everybody goes there for drinks. And,
Yep. Yeah, it's a really interesting opportunity. There's really the price is the price. It's just it's hard to comp a developable land like that in that particular part of Aspen because there's just not many land acreage for sale with that many houses that are already built.
Well, I'll let Lane correct me later if I'm wrong if he's listening to this, but which I'm sure he will be. But I believe he said there are 5 homes over 4,000 square feet on the property itself.
Wow.
So I mean, plus other living quarters, you have a guest quarters, you have a staff quarters, you have a sort of a small cottage. There's that
management on site that lives there.
Yeah, it's a full ranch. Really, I mean, they have farm animals, they have people out there working. It's a full operational ranch.
Did you see any wild animals out there while you were there?
We saw a lot of chipmunks. I didn't see any.
Something you don't see in
a lot of
Miami.
birds, a lot of chipmunks. We had a great time. We had some 4x4s and ATVs. We were riding
How
around.
insane is that?
I got a chance to I brought my drone with me just in case.
Yeah.
Turns out when I went to the Hamptons, as an example, I brought my drone thinking I'd get these great shots, but unless you have like a commercial license that you have to punch in the code. They won't let you. The drone won't take off in the Hamptons.
Oh wow.
Which I know people that like Antonio Botero as an example. He got licensed to be able to do it, so he punches in his code and he can fly anywhere. But there's so many airports in the Hamptons. That they just don't want you flying your drones around there.
Right.
In Aspen, I did not have that problem. I just popped that sucker in and we flew up and
nice.
I got great aerials, amazing videos, great shots of the ranch. Probably one of my most epic drone selfies ever. Like me dressed up in black tie attire, leaned up against a red ATV 4x4. In the backdrop of this 5,000 square foot cabin style house.
Send me that photo and I'll throw it into the show notes for the listeners so they can actually take a look. And that'll be part of the actual B-roll for the posting.
Excellent.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So Aspen was great. I'm jealous. I'm going back to Colorado in a few months too. But hopefully this COVID situation, there's an uptick right now. What's it like right now in Florida? Because you're seeing a lot of news about Florida just completely being open and the restaurants are open and the bars are open and the governor's, but essentially I guess the governor is just following Trump's lead and saying let's just open up the economy.
So yeah, I would say up until the governor decided to go full throttle, everything open, and then we're talking everything means yes, restaurants, bars, nightclubs, strip clubs, all of it. The Dolphin Stadium has the go ahead if they wanted to have 65,000 people in the stadium.
My goodness.
They've already made a statement that they won't be having 65,000 people in the stadium, but they are opening the stadium with limited capacity, with social distancing and so on. But if they wanted to just bring Lady Gaga or Madonna out and have a 65,000 person party, Florida's giving them the go ahead.
My God.
So yeah, I mean, our governor has definitely he's gone full throttle, and whether people like that or not, I'll leave it for them to decide. But yeah, we're one of the states that you can now go to, and really everything's for the most part open. Now, with that said, I think that because of that, you read a lot in the news and media that I think people get this impression that you're going to go to Florida and you're just going to have spring breakers riding alligators, coughing in each other's faces, and it's really not like that. Almost everywhere you go, from what I see, people are wearing masks, they're respecting social distancing. There are some people that don't, and you're going to have those people in every city, I think. But for the most part,
every city.
I don't see that at all. I think people are respectful, but those that are open to going into a restaurant or a bar go, and those that aren't are staying home. And I'm seeing it actually play out pretty well.
Oh, good.
On the contrary, right, on the flip side of that, before I came to New York for the first time, I heard that it was miserable. People were locked inside their apartments. Everything was closed, and like homeless people were kidnapping your children on the streets.
Yeah.
And I got here, and I actually saw nothing could have been further from the truth.
Yep.
My last trip to New York, right after the Hamptons, when I stopped in and we went, we had a little happy hour at the one hotel rooftop in Brooklyn, and but
Beautiful
I went to
day.
the one hotel rooftop Brooklyn. We went to a rooftop in Dumbo. I had breakfast on the streets of Greenwich. I had lunch on an enclosed street in Alphabet City where they're just literally they were blocking off city streets and doing outdoor dining. People were wearing shorts and hats and drinking rosé. It did not seem to be the dreary run for the hills New York City that I think the media portrayed. And so to that I'd say in general, just don't watch the news.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
stay away from the media.
It's definitely a far cry from what the news outlets are saying. Is New York is dead, or New York is it's a lawless state. It's pretty crazy what people are saying in the media. But yeah, if you just listen to the media, obviously sometimes you have to look at the real world and say, all right, let me turn off CNN or Fox and actually visit these cities and see what's really going down. We're full of life. We're kicking it.
But Florida is still Florida. There's the hashtag because Florida for a reason. And yeah, I mean we've certainly throttled a little more forward and really opened up the gates, if you will.
Nice.
So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But again, Florida's known for outdoor spaces. I think as it gets colder here in New York City, and then you're no longer be able to sit outside and enjoy rosé in your shorts and your cool hats, with outdoor dining. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out when people can't go to the parks and sit outside on their terraces. My opinion is you'll start to see more people as the snow hits the ground start to really say, we're sheltered in place still, or we're not sending our kids to school, or we're work from home, we're remote learning and working. The schools and if things are closed and people are feeling a little trapped in the city, not just New York but most densely populated winter cities, I think Miami is going to be a lot more appealing to people. It generally is. Our season tends to be winter. That's when people come down and they want a slice in Miami. We call it bragging season back at home.
It is.
And we're really moving into bragging season because summers are brutal. They're miserably hot.
Oh my God, so humid.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But our winters are just, it's bragging season.
I can't believe, when we all went down there, it was basically a year and a month ago. Or no, it was almost a year minus a month.
Yeah, just about.
Right?
It was November
Next month
of
last
19.
year. It was.
So yeah, it's almost the anniversary of the Compass Retreat.
And my God, the weather was perfect out there, and
that is the best time to be.
And I took a side fishing trip down in the Everglades, and weather was perfect, no mosquitoes.
You go to the Keys a lot, right? You do.
I usually go to the Keys.
Yeah, you're you do deep sea fishing.
Yeah. Backcountry flats. We do wreck, which is basically wreck fishing is like basically anywhere where there's a sunken ship. We do wreck fishing.
I don't get invites to these trips, probably because I'm not that athletic.
Well, it has nothing to do with athleticism. If you love to fish and you're okay with being on a skiff for 8 hours in the ocean, then yeah, come on the trip. You really have to love fishing to be on the water for that long, though. I mean, you own a boat. It's not easy being on a bathroomless boat with your buddy for 6, 7, 8 hours in the middle of the ocean with basically not a lot of sunlight cover.
Yeah, so there is a huge distinction. You're right, between being a boater and being a fisherman.
That's right.
And while I am a boater, an avid boater, I love to go out on the boat with my friends, with my kids and wife. Like I typically consider my boat more of a bay boat. So we just bop around the bay. We go jump on an island, dock up.
Yeah.
Kids play in the sand. We crack out sandwiches. We might go for waterfront dining. Sometimes we'll just go out and drop anchor and watch the sunset.
That's everybody's speed right there.
Everybody can get down with that, but like fishing is sort of next level. My son Benjamin, who's 6 years old, is really starting to harp heavy on fishing.
Good.
He wants to fish. He wants to fish. So my buddy and boat partner Adam Yormack, who's also a title attorney in Florida. He's a little bit more. He's actually from Colorado, so he's the outdoorsman guy.
Nice.
He's got a rock climbing wall at his house. He's got.
Oh my God.
He built his kids a zip line. They have a rope climbing net.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
He's got the outdoor. He's got the bikes. He's. I usually leave it to him actually to take point on those types of things.
Sure.
He's getting all the fishing gear and all that sort of stuff. So he's actually been pushing me to get into kind of spear fishing. So we're gonna start.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna start getting into the fishing, and sort of leveling up from just bopping around in the bay to actually using that boat for.
Dude, spearfishing, I feel like, is one of the most extremes. People don't know this. I don't know if listeners know this, but spearfishing, when you spear a fish and you catch it, you bag it in your net. That net is literally on your shoulder while you're spearing other fish.
Yeah.
So if you think about blood in the water in Florida, basically a dead fish on your shoulder, and you're looking for other fish. You know what's coming right behind you, right? You know what attracts other dead fish with blood in Florida. You will literally have sharks right up your neck trying to snag that dead fish away from you. So it's a pretty scary sport. But no, I love the fact that your son is getting into it, and maybe one day we could go out with your son.
Definitely.
Always a good time to go fishing down there. So let's switch gears. We're in basically 30 minutes. I just want to kind of touch base on why you're here. You're talking about business. You're connecting with other brokers in New York City. A lot of New Yorkers you find are now the main or one of the main source of buyers who are buying up property in Miami. You recently closed a $5.15 million deal. Just talk about that. What happened? Why is it? It's a really expensive price.
Well, the market in general is really hot.
Yeah.
My friend Antonio Botero from
Boston,
from the Hamptons.
Oh, Hamptons. I'm
from
sorry.
The Hamptons. You're talking about Antonio Curie from Boston.
Curie, sorry, Antonio. Shout out
for the Antonios.
Both Antonios, yes.
Who also recently sent me a referral from Boston. He's the one that sent me the buyer for the Trump Hollywood unit on the beach in Hollywood. That's a 3-bedroom apartment in that's a 3-bedroom apartment in the Trump Hollywood. Huge panoramic eastern Atlantic Ocean facing views. We bought that for $1,450,000. And that was completely virtual. I actually to date have not met those buyers in person. I did video tours of the property. They knew exactly which building and line they wanted to be in. We went and found the best deal that we could get. Just playing off of the different units there, just finding whoever's going to give us the best deal was going to get the buyer. They were okay with that, knowing which line they wanted to be in, and we closed that sale without meeting the buyers. Still to this date, I had never even visited the units until we had one under contract, and I went to do the inspections and the walkthroughs there. So that's not uncommon. I've actually done 4 sales in Miami to date that without meeting the buyers until they were already under contract and hard.
Is it just because they didn't want to travel? Is it because of logistics?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah, they were in. Two of them in New York, one in Boston and one in DC, that they didn't want to travel, or they were concerned about having to quarantine when they got back. One of them had a baby on the way. They didn't want to expose his wife, so they relied on me to go through virtually. So luckily I always get the biggest, baddest iPhone, and this thing with the wide angle camera lens. You do a walkthrough. I'm very descriptive. We talk about all the, we do a lot of zoom ins. I hop in the golf cart and drive around the block and show them the neighborhood. We do Zoom calls so I can show them aerials. I try to be as open about like what's a good area, what's a bad area, what I will and won't recommend. In the end, if they haven't set foot, the pressure is really on me that they're going to show up here and like this place. So what I don't want is to have somebody come and
say, why did I buy this?
Why did you sell me this piece of junk? So I try to be as full disclosure, lots of video. I mean, lots of 3-minute video clips, back and forth. I think with one of them, we counted, it was something like 65 3-minute video clips that we did to get this house for him.
Good.
But yeah, that's just been our market. We're doing some of it virtual. Antonio referred me this buyer who was coming out of the Hamptons. He's got a place in Brooklyn. He's got a place in the Hamptons. He was looking for a place in Miami, and he wanted to make that his permanent residency. All the reasoning I'll leave.
Purposes.
I'll leave it to your imagination and for his privacy. But for any and all the reasons, he wanted to be in Florida, and he wanted to make that his primary home, and keep the Hamptons maybe a secondary and or Brooklyn a secondary. We went shopping for waterfront houses in Miami Beach. And it's not easy or cheap to get a house in Miami Beach, but recently there's very limited inventory because what's priced well is moving.
What do you mean by waterfront? Are you talking about more towards like just the South Beach oceanfront, or are you talking more towards like a Coconut Grove, like in the canal. Would you consider that waterfront?
So I think we spoke about this on my last podcast. So if anyone wants to go back and check out the Levi Meyer podcast 1.0, we talked a lot about being on the water in Miami, sea level rise, the differences between being on the canal versus being on the ocean versus being on the bay. And what you really look for when you're looking to buy a waterfront property, from checking out the structural integrity of the seawalls to the bridge height to storm surge, flood zones, elevation, things like that. But for this particular client, he just wanted to be on the water so that he had access to have a 28 or a 32-foot Boston whaler, be able to go out in the bay and or go fishing with his son. And so, we were looking for water frontage with ocean access. So
ocean access is key.
Yeah. Now, again, the higher the higher the bridge, or if there are no bridges to the bay, typically, that creates a little more value. Some people want waterfront open views versus if you're on a canal facing other homes or facing towards, so there's a lot of different stuff. But in this particular one, this is on a canal, on a street called Lakeview.
Mm-hmm.
For those that want to check it out, it was 4955 Lakeview Drive.
We'll put that in the show notes too.
Yeah, Lakeview being one word. But
okay.
This particular house, it was originally listed at 6.2. It was on the market for quite a bit. They didn't get a ton. I mean, they had traction activity. It's a beautiful home.
Was it listed last year?
It was, I think end of 19 at some point, maybe early 20. I have to go back and look. But it had been on the market for some time, pre-COVID. I think once COVID sort of settled and we started getting a lot of activity from New York, these properties started just dropping like flies. We had offered 4.9 because I put the comps at about high fours, just below $5 million. And the seller didn't tell us to jump in a lake. They came back and made a counter in the mid fives. And once they did that, the listing agent said, hey, if you're going to be countering in the mid fives, we should not be listed at 6.2. She got them to drop it to 5.7 during our negotiation. And we quickly just agreed and tied it up at 5.15. My advice to my buyer at the time was that I felt that was a bit of a premium to where the comparables were and where the market was pre-COVID.
You immediately disclosed, Mr. Buyer, just FYI.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're paying a couple more points, or maybe in the double-digit points, more than what the comps were showing.
We were very clear that I felt, look, if you just look at the comps, there are many arguments to even say, there were two similar-looking homes that were 3.8 and 3.9.
Oh, wow.
But similar on paper, not in reality. This house was completely updated. All the plumbing was redone. There's things you have to look for in older Miami homes, like cast iron pipes being updated to PVC piping. You have to understand the seawalls and the roof structure and plumbing, electrical, all these different things. So when you compare apples to apples, location, updates, this place had hardwood herringbone floors, and it was updated by a known designer in Miami. So it was something more special than the others. And I even not only ran my own comps, but checked with several agents, and we all kind of agreed that it was about $5 million, maybe high fours. But to go over 5 was definitely paying a premium. So at 5.15, we were paying a premium, but nothing that he couldn't live with. And in the times, given everything that was going on, it just made sense for him to tie this up for his family and have a place to go. So we did that, did inspections, did appraisal. We were having some challenges in inspections and appraisal, which we had to overcome. The seller really didn't care to contribute or make any contributions back after the contract. Because they felt that they gave the property away, and we felt we were paying a premium.
Yeah.
Difference in opinion.
Sure.
Nevertheless, we decided to proceed, and it got to a point where the seller actually wanted to cancel the contract.
Oh my goodness.
And the buyer said, absolutely not. We're buying this house. We have a contract to do so. Without getting into the nitty-gritty details of that.
Well, the seller can't cancel. Well, they can still cancel the contract. They just have to get the deposit back. There's no repercussion really on the buyers.
I mean, you can sue them. You can try to enforce it. So again, without getting into nitty-gritty details, but exactly how everything transpired, we gave pushback. They proceeded to want to cancel. We said that's not going to happen. There was a lot of back and forth. It was a very uncertain 2-week period. But throughout that 2-week period, the first offer that came to the seller or the buyer with was, we'll reimburse you for your expenses. Just walk away. We're not, we don't want to sell it to you. He said, no, we want to buy the property. A couple of days later, they came and offered him $100,000 to not buy the house.
So basically, we're going to give you your contract deposit back.
We're going to refund your deposit plus
an extra
plus $100,000. Just hit the road.
Just to walk away.
Hit the road, Jack. So we said in more complex terms, go fish, and no dice, and they went back and forth for a couple of days. A couple of days later, they came back and said, "Okay, look, we'll give you $200,000. Just don't take
to walk away.
Walk away.
Cash.
And my buyer was going, "Hey, $200,000's a lot of money to not buy a house. That's a pretty damn good investment." But in all frankness, like he asked me to take $200,000, buy the house. I said, "If you had another house to buy, at $200,000, we'll take it and put in another house." There were no other reasonable homes.
That extra $200,000 isn't going to do anything in terms of changing the options.
Yeah, and all the other homes were also going upwards in price, and the inventory is very low, and they weren't good options.
What do you think was going behind the scenes with the sellers there?
I mean, I think they did not tell us, and to this date we still don't know. But I think being in the industry and being pretty clear, it's pretty obvious that they had a much higher offer. Probably once they went to the 5.7, my guess was that they got the full 5.7 offer, and they wanted to go and take that, because after he said no to 200, they came back and offered 300.
Wow.
So
wow, $300,000 just to walk away,
just to not buy a house.
Not buy a house. That's got to be one of the best deals in history of a single family transaction.
So needless to say, what we felt with maybe paying a premium to the market, turned out, because our market is that hot, and because there aren't many properties that you can get at a $5 million, like that, the barrier to entry for waterfront Miami Beach is I mean, you really can't get anything under $5 million. So to be just over
and
$5
if it is, it's probably a teardown.
Yeah, and the house is absolutely stunning. It's an old Miami home with a huge it's 17,000 square foot lot, so huge front yard, huge backyard, 20-foot privacy hedges. I mean, it really is sort of like Miami meets the Hamptons meets Mykonos, and it's just this really, really, really great property. And so I mean, even with 300,000, we had pretty much just decided, look, there may be a threshold, it's a price at which it just doesn't make sense to walk away. But for 300,000, it wasn't something that he felt was worth having to sit on the sidelines. He wanted to get down to Miami. He wanted to have his family living there. Your quality of life beats over at this point. And if they have a high enough offer that they're willing to pay him 300,000, and they can still make money on the back end, flipping it to someone else, well, I guess you just start to get to feel that you actually got yourself a pretty good buy.
How were you able to convince the sellers to close on this?
I mean, at that point, it was pretty clear by rejecting 100 and then 200 300 that we weren't going to close. I was kind of half expecting to come back and be like, okay, here's $500,000 bucks, but that didn't happen. They said, okay, we'll see you at the closing table.
That's good. So you didn't have to force their arm or twist their arm or do anything of that nature to get this deal done. You didn't have to threaten a lawsuit or...
Again, we won't get into all the logistics of the back end. We'll try to keep that.
But at the end of the day, they closed at 515. Now, your buyers, after they closed, they walked in the key into the keyhole, opened the door. As soon as they walked in, do you think that property today is worth more than 515?
I think, in today's market, with as hot as Miami is right now, absolutely. I think we can easily put that property back out to market, probably at $6 million.
Oh my goodness!
And probably get offers above 5.5.
Even though you warned him in the beginning that you may be paying a premium for this.
But that was in a again, based on comparables in a pre-COVID world, which again, in the beginning of COVID, we thought, brace for impact, this is all over. But once we saw people running out of the cities into the suburbs, they're going into the Hamptons, they were going into Westchester, they were running into whatever other suburbs you have of the Northeast, and escaping to places like Miami and Naples and West Palm Beach. We got to this point where the market's hot, prices are driving up. The inventory is down. Inventory for single family homes in Miami-Dade County is down 36%.
My goodness.
Year over year. There are no homes to buy. I posted an off-market pre-construction townhouse on my Instagram. One photo. I said, 4-bedroom, brand new construction, deliver inside of 60 days. $1.385 million. I had 6 or 7 agents hit me up in my slide into the DM to hit me up, ready to buy. We've done 2 showings. I've shown it to 2 buyers virtually. We're going to sell that without a doubt off market before it's ready.
My goodness.
And if we get to a point where we don't sell it off market and we finish it and furnish it and stage it, we'll probably sell it for 1.5.
My goodness.
I listed a house for 1.8 that I comped at about 1.6, 1.65 aggressively, but the market was hot, so we said let's go for it. It sits on an acre in Pinecrest, has a huge pool, covered terraces, plenty of bedrooms and large
Pool
closets.
is kind of key, huh?
It's super key in this
It
this
does
market.
raise the value of a home.
Yeah, people searching for pools. I think they said the increase of people searching for pools was up like 40% or 60% or something crazy.
Hindsight is always 20.
But we lived at 1.8. We ended up going to contract above asking.
Above asking,
and we have a backup. We have a backup significantly above asking, waiting for the first buyer to drop out.
My God, my goodness.
Right now the trick in Miami is inventory. Inventory. If you have it, it will sell. In the single family home market, condos are a little slower. There's plenty of inventory. There's not a ton of people jumping.
Yeah, why is that? I mean, you had that Porsche Tower listing for quite some time, which was asking how much again?
Which we were listed at 5.9. I think we reduced to 5.25.
But that was an ocean view condo basically on the beach, right? A high-rise condo.
And it wound up renting for mid 20,000s per month.
Okay.
And it's still rented today.
Yeah.
But the condo market, I think, is a little more slow just because people are still squeamish about sharing elevators, hallway spaces, common areas, gyms, the pools. Also, during shutdowns, they lock it all down. You can't use the gym. You can't use the pool. Now you're trapped in your apartment and you can't do anything. And I think people are looking for that freedom, the flexibility, the control.
Sure.
And they want those outdoor spaces. They want a yard and a pool.
And that totally makes sense. The precise reason why New York City right now is in the state that it is, it's not dead, but it's certainly struggling. It's because most of New York City housing are high-rises.
Yeah.
Mid-rises and high-rises.
But I think if I were somebody looking to move to Miami and looking for opportunity, there may be some opportunities in condos. Again, I'm not sure that all the sellers have caught up with the fact that the market's really sluggish in condos, but nevertheless, plenty of inventory. If one person doesn't, if you go to a particular building, there might be 10 or 15 units on the same line. Just pick the one you want most and go see who's going to give you the best deal for it. Doesn't really matter if you're on the 12th or 14th floor.
Yeah, the condos are definitely
and that's how we did it in Trump Tower. We had 4 different units to choose from. We said, look, we are buying a unit in this building. It's either going to be yours or it's going to be someone else's. And if you don't give us a great deal on it, then your neighbor's going to set the lowest comp. So just, it's just a matter of how much you want to get this deal done. And maybe that's aggressive, maybe that's a little rude, but that's the market. Now, switch to single family homes. We put that house in Pinecrest on the market. Within 3 days, we had 5 offers and 20 people lined up to see it the next week. So, we were in a position where we didn't have any great cash offers, but we were able to go to the buyers and say, look, we have 2 offers above asking price. Come back with your best and final, and here's a few things the seller would like to see. No appraisal contingencies or very limited ones. Short inspection periods, big deposits,
Yeah, sure.
Like they want to see this as close to a cash purchase as possible. So give me your best in finals, and that's how that's how it's rolling over there.
Well, there you have it, folks. It's certainly a seller's market, and if you are a buyer and you're looking for inventory, you may have to call the Meyer group to see what else is out there, because I'm sure some of these people are asking you, maybe you have something off market, maybe a neighbor of an ex-seller that is interested in potentially entertaining some offers.
And if I could deliver a message to any would-be agents and or people that are looking to run to Miami to do a rental or escape even for the winter, rentals are on the rise. It's getting scarce. It's going to get even worse. There were people that got ahead of the curve in June and July and started renting up properties. I have a client now with a $90,000 budget to rent a waterfront home in Miami. There were about 16 properties on the market that met their criteria. I called each and every one of those agents. Nothing, nada. Either they wouldn't rent it for the 3-month period, or it was already rented in most cases. They already had it rented.
Yeah.
Or they wanted, there was a property that was really nice for $90,000, but they wanted for 3 months. They wanted $120 a month, or they
$120,000 a month for 3 months.
So
yeah.
We did actually manage to find them from an Instagram post. I posted on Instagram through the network. Another agent at Compass in Miami said, "Hey, I have a client who has a house that they haven't traditionally rented it when they don't use it, but let me see." And we're signing today after a lot of negotiation back and forth on an $85,000 rental a month.
I'm curious about all the work you do, the cheddar biscuit on a rental deal. How does that work in Miami? Do you guys split it? Is it like a percentage split of a certain time period, or does the owner pay you?
So
in general terms,
very different. Rentals in Miami work very differently than New York. In New York, I think the buyer or the tenant pays a
Usually
fee.
the tenant pays. Yes.
In Miami, the tenant typically does not pay. There are some cases where the landlord doesn't want to pay a commission. It's pretty standard. Typically speaking, when you put a property on the market for rent, the landlord agrees to pay the brokers 10% of the gross rent divided between the two brokers.
Two brokers.
Traditionally, if you bring your own person, 10% just to one. But typically speaking, it's 10% of the gross annual rent divided by two.
So if it's $100,000 for 3 months, it's $300,000. 10%, you get $30,000 divided by 2.
$30,000 divided by 2, it's 15 with your brokers and your splits and Uncle Sam
you
or
make
whatever.
$5 an hour, yes.
Yes, you make $5. By the time it's done, my wife always says she's not very good at math. She never excelled in that study. She's like, but she knows damn well that 3% of $1 million is 15,000.
She does. That's it.
And that's broker math for you. 3% of $1 million, 15,000.
There you have it, folks. You guys think we make a killing? Let's revisit those numbers again. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, on this particular deal, exactly. Yeah, over 3 months, it's 10%. So it's
good.
Something like 265,000. So it's 26-something thousand divided by 2 agents, split between whatever, or referral fee to the agent in New York.
Oh yeah, there's always something. Compass
takes their split, and basically
everybody gets a piece.
It's a nice steak dinner.
Everybody gets a piece.
But what I'm more excited about on that, I didn't take that on because it was actually an exercise in futility. It was something of a mission impossible. Mm-hmm. Even just say that sounds crazy. $90,000 budget. You should be able to rent any house you want in Miami.
Sure.
But the inventory is getting so dry that it actually was really difficult to find a house. And it was one of the more challenging transactions that I had. But I did it because it was a referral from a Compass agent in New York. And I wanted to service my colleague.
Sure.
And really, and less about the money, more about just getting the client in there, building a relationship so that, when they do want to buy something in Miami or as their friends follow, for the most part, they'll be able to. That will breed future business and relationships.
Well, there you have it, folks. That's Levi Meyer. If you have any questions about the Miami market, this is the guy to know. This is the guy to speak to. If you have friends that are thinking about moving there, or if you have a client that wants to buy there or rent there, listen, it doesn't even have to be a referral. Just knowledge base is always important. So you want to speak to somebody that has the street cred, that knows the lay of the land, and knows the market like it's back of his hand, and also has the experience. The one thing that we always teach in our real estate industry is you cannot teach experience. Right. Experience is only through experience, and you learn through failures. And you don't want to refer your own network to someone that is still learning and is making, while growing, it's great, but you don't want somebody that's making mistakes on your personal network in order for them to grow. So I'm going to put Levi's contact again in my show notes. It'll be also in the post. If you have any questions, obviously, feel free to reach out to me as well. Levi, I appreciate your time. Do you want to end in, do you want to say something, if you want, take another minute or two to say something else to close it out?
No, I think we covered it all. But yeah, we're open, clearly. So come on down to Miami, enjoy it. We're really, it really is bragging season, and you should probably come down and get yourself a slice of it.
Oh yeah. All right, Levi, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Shout out to Levi Meyer from the Meyer Group, Compass, Florida.